There comes a moment, my friends, when your soul gets quiet. Not bitter, not broken, just done. You don't announce it, you don't explode, you just know, deep in your gut, that it's time to go. And not because you stopped loving them. That would have been easier. No, the truth is even harder. You still care, but they never valued it. They took what was sacred and treated it like it was common. You gave them the kind of love that would have walked through hell without blinking, and they chose the door with less fire, less commitment, less truth. And now, here you are, not desperate, not shaking, just standing still, with one last thing to say before you disappear for good. But let's be honest, you're not trying to start a conversation. You're not trying to win them back. You don't want to be pitied. You want impact. You want the kind of words that live in their mind, like unfinished business. You want to become the one they remember when they hear silence, the one they think about when the room gets too quiet. You want to become the sentence they can't unhear. And that, folks, takes strength. That takes clarity. That takes what Stoics call emotional discipline. The ability to say only what is necessary and nothing more. Because when you're done, you're not leaving with noise. You're leaving with weight. You see, Carl Jung once said, "You meet your destiny on the road you take to avoid it." And they did just that. They avoided you, your honesty, your depth, your soul. They ran toward chaos, comfort, and surface-level thrills. But guess what? Life always circles back, and one day, the very road they took to forget you will lead them right back to the memory of you. Not because you begged to be remembered, but because you were too real to forget. That's why this message, this final moment, has to come from a place of power, not pain. You're not speaking to seek justice. You're speaking to seal the chapter. You're not trying to be understood. You're simply stating the truth. The real flex isn't screaming, "You hurt me." The real flex is calmly saying, "This is where it ends." You don't owe them closure. You don't owe them explanation. You owe yourself peace. Peace is the exit. Clarity is the closure. And silence is your reward. So many people think walking away quietly is enough. But let me ask you something. What if there's one sentence that could shift the rest of their life? One line that hits them 3 months later when their new partner is asleep and their mind starts replaying the way you looked when you finally stopped waiting. You're not trying to destroy them. You're trying to deliver the truth in such a way that they can never deny it again. Think of it like a scar, not a wound. You're not cutting them now. You're leaving a mark that reminds them you were here, you were loyal, you were real, you were willing, and they missed it, and you will never offer it again. This script isn't for the weak. It's for the ones who loved hard, stayed too long, and finally chose themselves. If that's you, then stay with me, because what you're about to say will live longer than your presence. It will echo through every failed connection they chase after this, and they'll remember not what you gave, but what they lost. So if your silence has weight, if your truth no longer shakes when you speak it, if you're ready to leave not just a memory, but a mark they can't outrun, then let your comment be your signature. Type it below right now. I'm the scar they'll never outgrow. Not for them, for you. For the part of you that stayed quiet for too long. For the healed version that no longer needs permission to walk away like royalty. If this message cracked something open in your spirit, press that like button like you're claiming your strength. And subscribe, because we're just getting warmed up. This is your season of power, and the world's about to feel it. Number 1, say it once. Say it clean. Never say it again. When you're finally done, the instinct to repeat yourself is strong. You'll feel it pulling at your chest, whispering, "Maybe I should just explain it one more time." Maybe they didn't understand me the first time. Maybe if I say it differently, they'll finally feel it. But listen closely, my friends. That instinct, that's not power. That's your pain talking. That's your fear of being forgotten. And fear makes us repeat ourselves, hoping for validation that will never come. But Stoicism teaches us something different, something sharper, something stronger. Say it once, say it clean, and never say it again. Why? Because truth doesn't need rehearsal, power doesn't need repetition. You're not there to write them a speech. You're there to deliver one sentence that slices through their denial like glass through silk. One moment of clarity that doesn't wobble, doesn't shake, doesn't beg to be received with warmth. A truth that lands like a stone in their stomach, not because it's cruel, but because it's done. And it's not supposed to be easy. You'll ask yourself, but what if they don't hear me? What if they twist my words? What if I didn't say enough? These are normal thoughts when you've spent too long trying to be understood by someone who only listened when it served them. But that's exactly why your final message has to come from a place of stillness, not desperation. Because when you repeat it, it sounds like a request. But when you say it once and disappear, it becomes a memory. And memories haunt far more than messages ever could. Imagine you're standing on a stage in a pitch-black theater. You've got one spotlight, one microphone, and one chance to say something that will echo long after you've left the room. What do you say? You don't ramble. You don't cry. You don't read from a script of every wound they gave you. You look out into the darkness and you say the one truth that sets you free. And then you drop the mic. You walk off. You let the silence do the rest. That's what makes it unforgettable. The quiet, the finality, the absence that follows the message. See, people don't remember noise. They remember impact. They remember the last time you looked them in the eye and said, "This is the last time you'll ever hear from me." Not in anger, not in weakness, but in emotional command. And once they hear that, they can't unhear it. That phrase plays in the back of their mind like a song they didn't even like, but now can't stop humming. And you know what happens next? They start searching, not through your messages, but through their memories. They try to find clues. They reread what you said. They dissect the silence that followed. They wonder if you meant it, if you've really gone, if you're ever coming back, but you don't respond, because you said what needed to be said, and that's what makes you powerful. You don't repeat it because your value doesn't need repeating. You don't explain it again because your peace doesn't beg for understanding. You don't send another paragraph, another call, another "just so you know." You already know, you already said it, and they heard you, even if they didn't react. That's the secret, folks. Just because someone doesn't respond doesn't mean they didn't feel it. In fact, the deepest wounds often come from the words people pretend didn't hurt. But late at night, when the distractions are gone and the ego is quiet, they hear your voice, not the voice that pleaded, not the one that chased, the one that finally stopped and meant it. It's like walking out of a burning building and never turning around to watch it collapse. You know what's back there. You don't need to witness the destruction to feel the relief of distance. That's what your final message is. Your fire exit, your boundary made permanent. You said it once, you said it clean, and now the silence is your proof that you're no longer available for lessons they refused to learn when they had the chance. So be sharp, be brief, be clear. Don't leave a door open for debate. Don't ask them to understand you. Don't dilute your truth just to feel softer in their memory, because softness won't be remembered. But clarity? That sticks. And if you're still wondering, but what if they didn't get it? Let me ask you this. Why do you want someone to get it now when they ignored it then? Why are you wasting breath trying to resurrect respect in someone who couldn't hold your truth the first time? No, my friend, that time is over. You're not writing for their comfort. You're writing your own freedom. So here's your affirmation. Write it in the comments right now if this spoke to your soul. I said it once. That's enough. Let the world hear it. Let your past hear it. Let your old self hear it. Number 2, tell them what they lost, but don't ask them to feel it yet. You don't need to yell to be heard, and you don't need them to understand you in real time. That's the hardest part of this kind of closure. It's quiet, it's clean, and it's not for applause. When you tell someone what they lost, you don't deliver it like you're trying to shake them awake. You deliver it like someone who's already wide awake. No tears, no need for reaction, just clarity, just truth. And then you leave. This is not about guilt-tripping. It's not about trying to wring an apology out of someone who's already proven they can't hold the weight of what you gave. This is about planting a seed, not in their heart, but in their mind. And like any seed, it needs time. You're not there to water it. You're not there to beg it to bloom. You're just there to drop it into the soil of their subconscious and walk away. Tell them calmly what they had. Tell them the kind of love they couldn't find in anyone else, the loyalty that stayed when they gave you every reason to go, the patience that held on when your own needs were starving, the way you saw their pain and didn't run, the way you believed in them when they were drowning in doubt. That kind of love doesn't come often, and it doesn't return once it's gone. But here's the key. Don't tell them with a trembling voice. Tell them with a still one. Stillness is power. Stillness says, I already know you won't understand this now, but you will. That's the part they'll feel later when they meet someone who doesn't stay. When they speak and no one listens like you did. When they break and no one holds them the way you did. That's when the weight of your absence will land on them like bricks in the middle of the night. And don't be surprised if they shrug it off at first. That's what egos do. They protect pride at all costs, but pride is loud and weak. Regret is quiet and strong. It builds over time, slowly, steadily, silently, like a storm creeping in while the skies are still blue. And one day, that sky will split wide open, and they'll finally understand what they threw away. See, the mistake most people make is expecting closure to come with recognition, but real Stoic strength doesn't chase recognition. It leaves fingerprints. You don't need to scream to leave a scar. You just need to speak your truth once with grace and vanish. Let the silence wrap around their ego like a mirror they can't look away from. It's hard. You'll want to watch them feel it. You'll want to hear them say, I get it now. But that's not your job. Your job is to become the version of yourself that no longer needs them to get it at all. That's when you've truly detached. When your peace no longer depends on their perception, when your truth stands on its own, unshaken, unfollowed by another message, untouched by the need for a response. So say it once. You lost something rare. You just won't realize it until your hands are empty, and then walk away, not out of anger, but out of mastery, the kind of emotional control that Stoicism breeds. You don't demand their reflection, you simply become unforgettable because you didn't beg for it. And when the realization comes, when their world grows quiet and the replacements lose their shine, it won't be your words that haunt them. It'll be your tone, that calm, steady truth they didn't take seriously, until it was too late. If this landed in your chest like a truth you needed to hear, write this in the comments right now. I said it with grace. They'll feel it in silence. Number 3, speak like a mirror, not a victim. This isn't the part where you unravel. This is the part where you reflect, not just on what they did, but on what it revealed. You don't speak like someone begging to be seen. You speak like someone who finally sees clearly. When it's time to say something that will be remembered, you don't cry, argue, or tremble. You stand still, steady, and speak like a mirror. Because the mirror doesn't scream. It just shows the truth, plainly and unshakably. People can argue with opinions, but they can't argue with reflection. They can deny your pain, but they can't unsee their own behavior when it's handed back to them through your calm words. And that's what makes this moment so sharp, so unforgettable. You're not telling them how you feel. You're telling them what they showed you. You're no longer playing the victim in a script they thought they directed. You're rewriting the scene, one where you reveal who they truly were without ever raising your voice. Say it simply, say it factually. You taught me that silence is often the loudest answer. You showed me that when someone truly values you, they don't make you guess. These aren't accusations, these are revelations. And the beauty of it? You're not asking for anything, not their apology, not their explanation, just clarity, just truth, like a mirror reflecting everything they tried to escape. Calm, accurate, undeniable. It's tempting to break down in this moment, to unload all the pain, all the loneliness, all the confusion they caused. But when you do that, you hand them the power again. You show them your wounds, hoping they'll care. But caring was never their strong suit. They knew you were hurting. They just didn't think it mattered enough to change. So instead of crying, you confirm. Instead of pleading, you reflect. And in that reflection, something deeper stirs inside them, because now they have to feel what it's like to be on the receiving end of silence. The discomfort, the detachment, the realization that the person who once loved them with fire now looks at them like smoke. This is where the psychological shift happens. Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And that's exactly why your calm reflection is more piercing than any outburst. You're not just walking away, you're forcing them to sit with themselves, and the version of themselves you leave them with. That's the one they've been avoiding, the version who ignored love, who manipulated time, who thought you'd never leave. Let that be the last impression, not your tears, not your desperation, but your ability to see them clearly, without the filter of fantasy. Let your final words echo like a closed door, one that doesn't slam, but locks with intention. They will remember this, not because you raged, but because you didn't flinch, because you spoke the truth without needing them to agree with it, because you became the first person who didn't let them run from their reflection. If you're ready to become the mirror, not the victim, write this in the comments. I reflect, I don't chase. Number 4. Name the moment, not the mistakes. This is the part where most people go wrong. They think closure means listing everything that went wrong, every lie, every time they were ignored, every red flag they painted over with love. But when you list their mistakes, you give them something to debate, something to dodge, something to gaslight. You open the door to distraction, and the truth gets diluted in the noise. That's not how the Stoic handles the final moment. You don't drag the past into the goodbye. You don't scream the reasons. You name the moment, because the moment is the message. This is where the story ends. Not because you're bitter, not because you want revenge, but because you're ready to write a new chapter, one where they are no longer a character. You say it simply, powerfully. You mark the shift, like a line drawn in sand that no wave can wash away. Because when you name the moment, it becomes real, it becomes final, not just for them, but for you. You don't owe them a recap, You don't need to walk them through every time they made you feel small. You already survived it. You already cried those tears, wrote those journal entries, deleted and retyped those texts you never sent. You already gave them 100 silent chances. Now it's about you. Naming the moment without naming the mistakes is how you take your power back. This is the moment I stop waiting for you to become someone you never planned to be. This is the last time I choose you over me. That's not weakness. That's awareness. And awareness is where transformation begins. The moment you do this, something shifts in their subconscious, because now you're no longer reacting to their behavior. You're responding to your truth, and your truth doesn't need their validation. That's what scares them. That's what they'll remember. Not the fight, not the drama, but the day you stood still, said, "This is where it ends," and meant it. You see, folks, they expected the usual script, the one where you come back, where you plead, where you explain why their actions hurt you. But this time, you don't. This time, you let the silence speak louder than any proof. This time, you name the moment and leave the rest to time. And when they replay it in their minds, and they will, they won't remember your pain. They'll remember your peace. The universe doesn't reward those who cling, it rewards those who release. And you don't release by rehashing every flaw they carried. You release by declaring, "This is the moment I stop trying to be understood by someone committed to misunderstanding me." Then you walk, not because it doesn't hurt, but because you know hurt isn't a home. And if they don't get it now, that's fine. One day they'll look back and realize that was the moment they lost something real. But by then, your silence will have built you a new life. So if you're done naming the pain and ready to name the moment, write this in the comments. This is where my story turns. Number 5. Make regret inevitable by staying unpredictable. They had a script written for you before you ever opened your mouth. They assumed they knew how you'd react. They thought you'd cry, beg, or crumble the moment they pulled away. They were waiting for that one last desperate text, that one last open door they could walk in and out of whenever it suited them. But what they didn't expect was you evolving right in front of them, and doing it with composure. Stoicism teaches us that power is not in rage, it's in stillness, and unpredictability isn't chaos, it's control cloaked in mystery. You make regret inevitable not by screaming your worth, but by becoming unreadable, unfoldable, untouchable. You say something they never expected from the version of you they took for granted, something that reveals you were never as naive, never as blind, never as dependent as they assumed. I forgive you, but I'm not waiting for your growth anymore. I understand now, some people just aren't capable of love at my level. Or maybe you just say, I saw everything and I chose peace. Let that sink in. You saw it. You saw the lies, the half-love, the breadcrumbing, and instead of reacting the way they predicted, you chose peace. That one sentence will echo in their mind at 2 a.m. Not because you said it loudly, but because you said it from a place of knowing. You weren't confused, you weren't broken, you were done. And nothing haunts a person more than realizing they never truly knew the strongest version of the one they lost. You were predictable when you needed their validation. You were predictable when you were still hoping they'd change. But now you've stepped into the unknown, and that rattles them, because now they don't know if you'll respond. They don't know if they'll ever be able to reach you again. And when they realize the version of you they hurt isn't the one who walked away, that's when regret starts to dig deep. You see, folks, the reason people don't change is because they don't believe consequences are real. But when you become unpredictable in your peace, in your decisions, in your silence, you become the consequence. You become the thing they thought they could control until you vanished from the equation entirely. Now they're left doing math with missing numbers, calculating worth they didn't appreciate until it was out of reach. So say something they'll replay in their mind, but never fully decode. Not a quote from the internet, not a line you saw on TV. Say something that comes from the new you, the version of you they never met, because they were too busy hurting the old one. And then walk away with no follow-up, no explanation, just clarity, just distance, just silence. And if they try to test you, don't flinch, don't clarify. You already said what needed to be said. Let the mystery grow in their mind like a vine that wraps around their memory of you, tighter and tighter, until one day they realize they didn't just lose you, they lost access to your evolution. If you're ready to let them feel the storm of not knowing who you've become, then write this in the comments. They'll never predict this version of me. Number 6. Deliver your goodbye without needing a response. When it's truly time to walk away, the most powerful thing you can do is not wait for a response, not a text, not a sorry, not even a single emoji. Because when you say goodbye with certainty, without reaching back, without checking your phone or overanalyzing their silence, you become unforgettable. Your final message becomes something they can't argue with because you've stripped it of expectation. It's no longer a conversation, it's a closing statement. And that's what shakes them. You see, most people don't leave, they linger. They send long messages hoping for clarity, hoping for validation, hoping that the other person finally realizes what they had. But what if I told you that the second you hope for a reaction, you already gave them the upper hand again? Because now you're waiting, you're open, you've turned your power into a question mark, and nothing empowers a person who played with your heart more than knowing they still have access to your emotional space. But when you don't need their reply, when your words carry no attachment, that's when your presence becomes loud in its absence, like a book that ends with a line so sharp they close it and just sit there, stunned. Let them sit there, let them feel the air shift, because you didn't say goodbye to start another round of pain. You said goodbye to end the war. Your goodbye should be short, poised. Director. You don't over-explain, you don't point fingers, you don't replay history, you simply name your decision and leave them in the silence that follows. Say it like it's the final scene in a film they didn't know was ending. You don't have to say anything, just know this is the last time you'll ever hear from me. Or, I understand now, and I'm done pretending I don't. Or even, this isn't goodbye out of anger, this is goodbye out of peace. Let them feel that. Let them realize you didn't yell, you didn't threaten, you didn't block them to get a reaction. You spoke once, you walked away. And that final moment, the one you didn't dress up with drama or emotion, becomes the one they'll return to in their mind, over and over and over again. And here's what makes it even more haunting. They can't reply, not because they don't want to, but because they don't know how. How do you respond to someone who no longer needs anything from you? How do you manipulate someone who no longer opens the door? That's where their power dies, in the silence you chose. Because let's be honest, my friends, some people only respond when they still believe they have influence over you. But when you send that final message with calm detachment and don't look back, you shatter that illusion. They won't know if you're hurting. They won't know if you've moved on. And that not knowing will torture them more than any angry rant ever could. You don't need closure. You are the closure. You don't need their understanding. You understand yourself now. And the moment you decide that their response, or lack of it, means nothing to your forward momentum, that's when you become the version of yourself that haunts their soul in silence. So if you're ready to speak your final truth without expecting applause, then write this in the comments. My goodbye needs no reply. Number 7. Seal the message with silence, not emotion. There's a moment just before your voice starts to shake, just before your hands itch to type one more line, just before your heart whispers, maybe, just say a little more, that you must catch yourself, because that is the moment when silence must enter the room. That is the moment when your power walks in, not with rage, not with tears, not with one last desperate attempt to be seen, but with absolute stillness. Like a door quietly closing, like a flame going out without smoke, like a period at the end of a sentence that doesn't need explaining. You see, folks, the final message is never just about what you say, it's about what you don't say after it. Anyone can send a strong text, anyone can rehearse a goodbye, but what separates the remembered from the forgotten is what follows. The emotional ones keep circling back. They post vague quotes. They write song lyrics that scream, "I'm not over it." They reply when they said they wouldn't, and in doing so, they cheapen their exit. But not you, not anymore. Your silence isn't emptiness, it's a sealed vault, and that vault drives curiosity. It invites reflection. It makes the other person sit in their own echoes instead of escaping into yours. Because here's the secret. People expect you to break. They expect you to need closure. They expect you to slip up and reach out again. But when you don't, when the message ends exactly where it needs to, with no follow-up, no drama, no closure request, no reactionary story or social media jab, that's when they finally feel it. The pain they thought they escaped. It walks in quietly after your silence, the weight they avoided carrying. It finds them the second you vanish. That's the paradox. You don't need to explain why you're gone. Your absence explains everything. And it speaks louder than 1,000 "I deserved better" quotes. You might ask, but what if they think I didn't care? Let them. Let them think whatever story helps them sleep. Because your stillness is not for them. It's for you. It's a declaration that you no longer need their reaction to validate your release. It's an act of emotional maturity so rare, so powerful, that most won't understand it until years later, when they're still checking to see if you've posted something about them. And there's nothing. No response is not weakness, it's a strategy. No reaction is not bitterness, it's wisdom. You seal the message by refusing to leak energy after it's been delivered. You do not trail off into the night like a ghost searching for closure. You exit like the last page of a book that doesn't need a sequel. It ends. And it's perfect that way. Carl Jung said, "Loneliness does not come from having no one around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." And now, that loneliness is theirs to feel. Because you've spoken your truth and taken your voice with you, they no longer have access to your mind, your heart, or your timeline. And it's in that absence that the realization begins. So don't post, don't hint, don't perform your healing. Live it, quietly, strongly, still. And if you're ready to end your story with stillness instead of sadness, write this in the comments. My silence is sacred. Number 8. Become the voice in their head. They can't unhear. There's a reason why some people forget you quickly, and others carry you like a ghost in their chest for the rest of their lives. It's not because you begged, it's not because you screamed, it's not because you made a scene, it's because of the way you spoke your truth like it was a mirror, and then disappeared like it was destiny. That's how you become unforgettable, not loud, not messy, not broken, but etched. You don't want to haunt them out of bitterness. You want to echo through their mind, like a lesson that keeps ringing in the silence. A voice they didn't appreciate when it was soft, but now can't unhear when it's gone. Because let's be real, my friends, the human mind remembers clarity. It replays calm confidence like a looped melody. And when your final message is spoken from a place of strength, not vengeance, it plants itself like a seed in their subconscious. A seed that sprouts the next time they're lying beside someone who doesn't feel like you. A seed that blooms every time they hear your name and have to pretend it doesn't shake them. That's the power of words backed by evolution. When you say, "I no longer love you" out loud, or "This is where the story ends," or "You won't hear from me again," and that's not a threat, it's a promise. You're not just talking, you're writing a prophecy. Not a prediction, but a psychological blueprint that they'll walk into again and again without you even being there. Because now you live in the after the texts, after the attempts, after the silence. They'll meet someone new, sure, but guess what? That new person won't say things the way you did, won't carry peace and depth the way you did, won't feel like home and fire at the same time. And it'll hit them, one small sentence at a time, one small memory at a time, that the one they dismissed is now the one they compare everyone else to. You become the standard, not by claiming it, by embodying it. You spoke once, you vanished, you upgraded, and now their mind is doing what the heart refused to do when you were there. Listen, and the more they try to bury you, the louder your message becomes. Because that's the irony of silence delivered through strength. It becomes thunder inside those who tried to mute it. They'll remember what you said when you walked away, not because it was dramatic, but because it was real. And folks, realness sticks. Jung said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." And in that goodbye, you didn't just talk, you transformed. You became the echo they'll never escape. So say it once, say it clean, make it count, and then become the voice they can't delete, the presence they can't replace, the lesson they had to lose to understand. If you're ready to be that voice, write this in the comments. I am the echo they'll never forget. Tap that like button if your silence now speaks louder than their noise ever did. And don't forget to subscribe, because we're not done yet.